Hello, welcome everyone to the 2020 Alumni Fellow Presentation Conversation with OSU Influencers. My name is Harris bin Maqsood, and I'm a student in the College of Engineering studying Manufacturing and Industrial Engineering. Today, we will hear from our Alumni Fellow, Scott Williams, who will be introduced by Scott Ashford, the Carney Dean of College of Engineering. After the presentation, please join us for a question and answer session. You can submit your questions by using the Q&A box at the bottom of your browser screen. The presentation is being recorded and will be posted online at osualum.com/fellows. Please welcome Scott Ashford to introduce our OSU Alumni Fellow, Scott Williams.
All right. Thank you, Harris, for the introduction. Good morning. I'm Scott Ashford, the Carney Dean of Engineering at Oregon State. I want to thank you all for joining us today for the Alumni Fellow Talk with Scott Williams. The Alumni Fellows Recognition Program was established by the OSU Alumni Association in 1988 to acknowledge alumni who have distinguished themselves in their professions and communities. Without a doubt, Scott Williams has done both. Following his graduation from Oregon State with a bachelor's degree in construction engineering management in 1974, Scott spent 4 years at W.H. Gregory Company and 5 years with Genstar Construction before becoming a project manager and superintendent at Hamilton Construction Company, a heavy civil engineering construction firm based in Coburg, Oregon. Hamilton is well known for its transportation projects throughout the West Coast, namely major bridge replacement and rehabilitation projects. Scott was promoted to vice president and chief estimator of Hamilton in 1988, with oversight responsibility for all estimates and work acquired, which has included over the years the I-5 Willamette Bridge, a $148 million project that at the time was Oregon Department of Transportation's biggest project to date. Scott has served as president of Hamilton Construction since 2000, with responsibilities for all major operations in the company. Scott currently serves as second vice president of the Oregon Columbia chapter of the Associated General Contractors. He is also past president of the chapter and served as treasurer of AGC America in 2016. AGC is a national association representing commercial construction industry and is an important partner to the College of Engineering. AGC has provided nearly $2 million in philanthropic support to OSU's School of Civil and Construction Engineering, their facilities, scholarships, and our programs. In 2014, Williams was awarded the AGC SIR Award for lifetime achievement and contributions to the construction industry based on skill, integrity, and responsibility. He was inducted to the College of Engineering's Academy of Distinguished Engineers in 2016. As a volunteer for the College of Engineering, Williams has in the past served on the CCE Industry Advisory Board and currently serves as a Construction Education Foundation board member and has been a benefactor to the College of Engineering, specifically civil and construction engineering over the years. While some are born to lead, the values and skills that make a successful leader can also be taught. It is important to lead by example and take the time to invest in others and mentor them to become the leaders of tomorrow. These statements sum up Scott Williams' approach to mentoring employees at all levels of Hamilton construction. I know I can speak for Jason Weiss, the former head of our School of Civil and Construction Engineering, and Robert Bertini, the recently appointed head, both of whom will be listening in the next hour, when I say how thankful that we are for Scott's leadership to the college, and how proud we are to have Scott as part of our College of Engineering community. We are so glad to be joined by the 2020 College of Engineering Alumni Fellow, Scott Williams, who will now lead a conversation about the importance of mentoring developing leaders.
Good morning. Thank you, Scott, for that introduction. I really appreciate it. I want to thank the College of Engineering for nominating me for this award. I am both humbled and honored to receive this prestigious award. I want to say at the outset that a presentation such as this is somewhat out of my area of expertise. So I apologize in advance. I was going to say if I stumble, but it's going to be when I stumble on something as I go forward in this presentation. I chose my topic on mentorship because it is something that is near and dear to my heart. It is the basis of how I've attempted to lead my company for the past 20 plus years. It is an overused phrase in the business world, but people are our most important asset. To not invest your time and your resources in them is a huge mistake. Taking the time to mentor and train your employees will help them become better leaders, better employees, and hopefully better people. Now, why I believe so strongly in mentoring and how it has had an effect on me in my career, I want to say I've had many mentors, but in particular 4 stand out. And I want to talk a little bit about them as I start this talk. My first mentor was my dad. He had a tremendous impact on how I turned out. And this was long before mentoring became a term you hear today. A couple instances really stand out, and I remember them like they were yesterday. He taught me about financial commitment. I was 11 years old and got a paper route in the Medford area where I grew up. I needed a new bike, so I talked with my dad about lending me the money. I think it was about $170, so I could start my route, and I'd repay him out of my earnings. My dad listened, and then he looked at me and he said no. He wouldn't lend me the money, but he would take me down to his bank and help me get a loan from the bank to buy a bike, and that is what he did. So at 11, I ended up with my first bank loan, monthly payments, my first look into the cost of borrowing money. I quickly paid the bank back by doubling my payments. I didn't like paying the interest, but that taught me my first valuable lesson about business commitments. I might add, still dislike borrowing money and debt to this day. Another lesson I had learned from my dad occurred when I was about 15 years old. I took a summer job with a grass seed farmer bucking bales of hay. About the third night of work, sitting at the dinner table, I was complaining about how hard the work was and the amount I was getting paid, which I think was around $1.50 an hour. My dad interrupted my complaining and told me he wanted to hear no part of it. I had made a deal with a farmer to work for $1.50 an hour, and I needed to honor that deal with no complaints. He went on to explain that whether I was making $1.50 an hour or $15 an hour, it did not matter. I had a contract to work for someone, and in exchange, I got paid, and that I needed to give 100% no matter my salary. If I couldn't give 100%, then I needed to quit because it was not fair to my employer to give less than 100%, no matter how much I was making. That was a valuable lesson he gave me, as I remember the conversation to this day, over 50 years later. The second mentor I want to mention was Professor Hal Pritchett, who headed up what was then the newly formed Construction Engineering Technology program at OSU. I met him at freshman orientation before the start of my freshman year. I had enrolled at OSU intending to take civil engineering and had never heard of the CET program. At orientation, Hal came in and talked about the new program that was being offered. I changed my major on the spot because what he was describing was exactly what I wanted. I wanted to learn how to be a builder. After enrolling in the fall of 1970, Hal became my advisor. Quickly that fall, he suggested that I apply to AGC of America for a new scholarship that was being awarded to engineering construction students. I became the first student at OSU to be awarded a national AGC scholarship, and it paid for the last 3 years of my schooling. Hal was truly my mentor, taught me how to interview, helped me get summer employment, helped me choose electives. He did it all. as he did for many of the students in the CET program. And I'm honored to say he's a great friend to this day, and I really recently got the honor of seeing him on his 90th birthday. My third mentor was my first permanent employer out of school, Bill Gregory, who had a construction firm based in Portland. After I got out of college, I went to work for Bill, who really taught me the meaning of integrity when running a business. About 2 years after I started with Bill, we had completed a tough job in Montana and had some claims against the engineer. Bill agreed to binding arbitration with the owner as the sole arbitrator. After the arbitration hearing, in which we won a sizable settlement, Bill had me go along on a trip to Montana to call on a sub who had gone out of business trying to perform work on our job. Legally, we didn't owe him any money. The settlement we received had nothing to do with his work, but as told by Bill, morally, he felt we owed the man money. The man put his business on the line to work with us, and that since we made money on the project, he did not feel right with someone losing their business while working with us. So we flew to Montana and called on him and gave him a 6-figure check, which was a huge sum of money, especially in 1976. That day, I really came to know the difference between legal obligations and moral and ethical obligations. Second thing Bill mentored me in was make a decision. When an issue on a job comes up, analyze your options and then be willing to make a decision. He told me he knew I was smart, had a good analytical mind, and that when a problem arose, make a decision and go forward. He said there might be 6 possible solutions. 2 would obviously be bad, 2 maybe so-so, and a couple viable, but pick one and move on. If you waited, you were costing the company money as the crew sat around waiting on you, and you would soon lose the confidence of your crew that saw that you were having trouble leading. I try to install that in my young leaders today. Learn to make a decision. Due to health issues, Gregory was forced to close in the late 1970s, and I went looking for another job. And as Scott mentioned, I worked briefly for a company out of Canada, Genstar. He said 5 years. It was really only about a little over a year. And in 1979, I came to work for Hamilton Construction, to work for the 4th major mentor in my life, an OSU grad like me named Bill Peckham. He taught me many things about business and business ethics, about treating people with respect, about dealing with clients, about being a leader in general. To this day, I still recall the day he said one of my favorite lines that I ever heard when I was negotiating a change with an owner, and the owner compared us to a competitor. It's a comparable work they were doing. He told me to tell the owner to do work that bad in quality, they were going to have to pay us extra. That quality meant everything to him and to Hamilton, and we were going to do it right and expected to be compensated fairly. But if they wanted us to do it like the competition, they were going to have to pay us significantly more because Hamilton didn't do such shoddy work. Along with those 4, I had numerous great mentors before mentorship became a common phrase. Because of it, and the time people were willing to invest in me and teaching me, it became a goal of mine to pay it forward to the individuals that work with me and for me. So what are some of the values I try to install in my managers, engineers, and the people who will be leading our company in the future? And why is it important to mentor? I believe while some people are inherently natural leaders, many of the traits needed to effectively lead can be taught. So I'll have a couple of them that I want to talk about. First, people are truly our #1 asset. I firmly believe it and have attempted to install that belief in our young leaders. I had a safety consultant outside the firm say to me just 2 weeks ago, "Your company is different than others I work with. Your employees out on the grade truly bleed Hamilton blue," which is our company color. "They are more loyal than he has ever seen." Why is that? I think because we expect their best effort and we reward them for it monetarily. But more important, we give them the ability to make decisions and stand by them when they do. They know we value their input and what they have to say. They know we value their safety. There are many studies that have been done that say for the most part, people don't quit their job over money. They quit their job because of their boss and how they are treated. So make sure you're treating your people right. And you have a leader that is not doing that, It might be time to change the leader if you can't change their behavior. Second thing I'd like to say is lead with compassion. Take an interest in the people that are working for you. Get to know them and let them know you appreciate their efforts. I was reminded of how important this is just a month ago. I was going to an establishment to meet a friend for lunch, social distance, I might add, when I ran into two brothers I know who run a business out of Eugene. They had just gotten done interviewing a former employee of ours who had left the job market for several years to raise children and was now back in the market. On her resume, she had said she worked for us, and the brothers said they were friends of mine. Out of the blue, she told them one of the things she liked best about working for us was that I'd given her a handwritten note every holiday season telling her I appreciated her efforts on the behalf of the company and thanking her for making our year a success. She said nowhere else did the president of the company give her a handwritten holiday card. I will mention with the card came a holiday bonus, but it wasn't the money she talked about. It was about the card. Remember, it is not about the money. It is about how they are treated. I have passed this tradition on to my successor as president of the company, and this year he will be following in that tradition. He told me he never knew I did this with the administrative staff, and he appreciated the knowledge. Lead with compassion, care about your employees, and don't be afraid to show them you care. That can be taught. Third thing I'd like to say is teach your leaders that most issues are not black and white, but some shade of gray. We are a construction company with 20 plus projects going on at any one time. We are dealing with clients, subcontractors, and material suppliers on every job, every day. There will be a difference of opinion, and these differences, our side is not always right. Learn to listen, learn to compromise. Learn that sometimes it is better to lose a battle, but in the end, win the war. Learn when to give on an issue and when to hold firm. This can be taught. It is not necessarily intuitive. I'm proud of the fact that in my 20 plus years of leading Hamilton, we have never had to litigate a claim or an issue. We've always been able to resolve our issues, either with the client or with our sub or supplier. I believe this is because we have taught our managers to listen and that there are always two sides to every story. Plus, we are way more profitable moving on to the next job than wasting their time and talents trying to collect on a disputed issue. Again, this can be taught, and I think our leaders are doing a good job of it. Our managers are doing a good job on this. Fourth thing we try to teach them is when there's an issue on a job, go to the owner, not just with the issue, but with a solution. Again, that is something we try to teach our people early in their careers. There will always be problems inherent in a set of plans and specs. I believe it is impossible to anticipate everything and have a perfect set of plans and specs. So when there is a problem, come with solutions. Don't just identify the problem and expect the owner to come up with solutions. We are the construction expert. They hired us for a reason. Give them possible answers. We train our people to think this way. Next, I'd like to say praise in public, criticize in private. And I think everybody knows this, but you see examples of people not doing this every day. Everybody makes mistakes. Everyone has a bad day. But when they do, talk about it in private. When the crew or an individual truly goes above and beyond expectations, praise them in public. Doing this will reap more benefits than one can ever know. I had an incident early in my career where I cost the company a lot of money for a mistaken judgment I made on a critical concrete pour. Had to waste over 100 yards of concrete, plus we damaged some equipment. Bill Peckham was my boss, and when I made the tough call to the office to relate what had happened, he didn't go off on me. He asked us what we were doing to remedy the issue and what was the plan going forward. Thankfully, the crew and I had come up with a plan and we were able to institute it. But about a week later, Bill came to the job and I got the criticism I deserved. And I used the word criticism in this venue, but it was much more than that. But it was in a private conversation, which ended with, Let's make sure we don't make that same mistake again. Again, a learning experience for me that I've used in dealing with employees I am training. Give people opportunities to grow. Very few people want to become stagnant in their careers. To keep people energized and motivated, you need to give them opportunities to advance and grow in their jobs. In Hamilton's case, we made the decision to expand our operations about 8 years ago to new geographic locations. It was a time in Oregon where work was down. We needed either to expand or we needed to reduce the size of our operation. We met with our managers and told them the plan, told them we were willing to invest 3 years into a new territory without being profitable and give people a chance to run those operations. Several folks stepped up, accepted the challenge, and today we have operations in offices in Colorado, Alaska, and Washington, all successful. But again, it is about the people and how to motivate them and help them to succeed so the company can succeed as well. We train our leaders to think about that with their crew. Always give the people that work for you the opportunity to grow. Next thing is our engineering training program. When you come to work for us as a young engineer, you're put in a training program that we at Hamilton designed to mentor young graduates in what it takes to successfully build a bridge. You are paired with a senior PM or PE who follows you in your early career, provides advice, helps answer questions, helps you solve problems. This mentor is not your boss. More often than not on the same job, quite probably not in the same state. But they are your sounding board, your mentor to help you through your first couple of years with Hamilton. And lastly, I'd like to talk about, we believe firmly in becoming a part of your community. We work in an industry where individuals and companies take risks, but can have high rewards as well. Since I have been president of Hamilton, we have taken a position to become part of the communities we work in, to donate a percentage of our profits to charities in those communities, to encourage our employees to become part of those communities, give them time to coach their kids in sports, time off to attend important events in the community, sponsor local events, truly give back to the community, both in time and in money. Our industry has treated us well. Be willing to share with those around us. This too can be taught. It doesn't always come natural to an individual, but it becomes infectious once they truly embrace the experience. So I hope I've been able to present you some information that shows why mentorship is so important to me and how we try to use it at Hamilton. I could go on, but now I think I should open it up for questions. And Harris, do we have any questions in the queue?
Okay. Thank you, Scott, for the wonderful presentation. I think it is, as you said, it's time to take questions and answers. If you have a question, please type it in the Q&A inbox in the bottom center of your browser window. While our audience is typing in their questions, I have one to get us started with. So Scott, you talked a lot about mentorship and the importance of mentorship. So during these unprecedented times where a lot of face-to-face interactions are not possible, how does a recent graduate or somebody who's in their last year of school should go about finding mentors and making those like personal connections with different people across the industry?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question because although with COVID and having to do distance, it is a little different. It's been the same since I was in school. How do you reach out? How do you become involved? How do you hook up with somebody? And I think it's, you know, it's not easy. It's, you got to put yourself out there and just talk to people, call them up. I think many contractors, they're willing to take the calls from students. Our firm in particular, we hire 6 or 7 interns every year and to come to work for us and to learn about our industry and what we do and help them learn. It's part of the learning experience. Then it's a matter of really finding somebody that you connect with and is willing to invest the time. And that's not always easy to do, but I think you'll find in this industry, there is many of us out there that are willing to do that, to take the time to invest in students and people so that they can help advance their career and hopefully be a success in this industry.
Thank you, Scott. Another question we have is from Williams, and they are saying that as a fellow OSU's School of Engineering alumni, 1980, I have spent 40 years working for the same company, which was 9 months old when I started. I worked with hundreds of people, and one of the key takes away from my experience is that almost everyone can bring something of importance to the company, even it is something that they were not hired for initially. This is especially true for leadership. William, do you agree that mentoring should be a mix of structured guidance filtered through experience working with leadership?
Oh, I think without a doubt, it's when you're mentoring if you are a leader in your company, and in my case, like the president of the company, there's a fine line when you're talking with people, they view you as their boss. So what you're saying, they're supposed to be doing. And so how do you give guidance and still let that person go off and do their thing the way they want to do it? And, and also learn from his mistakes. I think you learn more from your mistakes than you do from when you do something right. So it's a tough line on mentoring people to go forward on, and yet not really instructing them on how to do it, but just trying to help them through the process and the thought process as they start making their decisions.
Thank you. So the next question we have is from Walt, and they're asking, how much credit for your success do you give to your mentors?
I'd like to say probably, I'm not going to say 100%, maybe only 99%. I mean, realistically, the people that mentored me as I was, from the time I was growing up with my parents, through going to school, and then the people I went to work for, I was fortunate. I always had somebody that was willing to be a strong mentor. And without it, because most of the things that you come to be a leader, they're not necessarily natural. They are trained. And if you have the right mentor, people willing to spend time with you, it's invaluable.
Thank you. So the next question is from Robert, and they are asking that, are there specific things we should include in our curriculum advising to encourage students to seek out mentors and also to become mentors themselves?
Well, that's a good, interesting question. I think probably we could do more in the program to encourage, set up mentorships, and maybe even try to do things where there's, whether they're employees of ours. We've got a lot of recent engineers that have graduated from OSU, and maybe they take on a student one-on-one. We've never really explored that or talked about it, but I think that is something that maybe we at OSU and OSU look together and say, hey, this could be valuable experience going forward.
Thank you. The next question is from Jennifer, and they're asking, what are the most important lessons that you have learned as a mentor?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what I said before. There's a fine line when you try to mentor, to not overstep and not try to tell people exactly how to do things, but to try to guide them and give them some principles on how to do things. They're not going to learn if they're doing exactly what you've told them to do, and it's a step-by-step and it's off a lesson plan, or if it's out of a like on a worksheet. They won't learn from that experience. They need to have their own input and their own insight in how they want to do things. So I think it's, as a mentor, I try to give guidance, but not try to make it so structured that there's only one way to do it. I'm more what I try to tell them is, to me, it's more about the results than maybe the process and how you got there. I know that we've hired you, you've been through school, you've got a good mind. You'll come up with a good way of getting to a place, but don't try to over structure them and just tell them this is the only way you can do something, because it's not.
Thank you. So Walt was wondering that, how did you know Bill Gregory was a good choice as your first employer?
Yeah, Interesting question. Well, I don't know. Quite frankly, maybe it was just a guess. I will say that I did a summer internship with this firm between my junior and senior year in college. And he had come down to the university, interviewed, and I happened to get the job with him. So I'd spent a year with him, and I learned a lot about the man at the time and knew that I wanted to work for him, that he was the right fit for me. And so I was fortunate that he came to me. I mean, I didn't have to go up and search for him. He came down and was looking for a student, and I was the one that got picked. So I guess some of that is luck, and it turned out to be a great thing for me.
Thank you, Scott. Are there any more questions from the audience? Please feel free to type them in the Q&A section in the middle of your screen. Scott, Scott Ashford, do you have any last questions for Scott that you want to ask? Okay, well, moving on. So thank you so much, Scott, for the wonderful presentation. And thank you thank you everyone who had joined us today. You can join us this week for other great conversations from one of our other alumni fellows. The presentations are gonna be today at noon and 2 p.m. Pacific time, and also on Wednesday and Thursday at 10 a.m., noon, and 2 p.m. Pacific time. There's also our panel discussion with all 10 fellows and OSU President Alexander on Friday at noon. The schedule and previously recorded conversations can be found online at osualum.com/fellows. You can learn more about the College of Engineering and the work they're doing in the community by liking their Facebook page or visiting their website. And Scott, I especially want to thank you and congratulate you for being chosen as a 2020 Alumni Fellow. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure having you on.
Well, thank you. And thanks for, like I say, I really appreciate the honor, humbled and honored to have received it. And thank you, everybody that chose to participate today. So, yes, we'll sign off.